For the longest time, when we talked about businesses and sustainability, it was always about doing less harm. But what if that's just not cutting it anymore? Today, we're going to dive into a really massive shift in thinking, moving beyond just shrinking our negative footprint to actively creating a positive one.
This sentence right here, man, it just nails it. The old goal was all about protection, by doing less pollution, less waste. But honestly, with our ecological systems under so much pressure, just slowing down a destructive machine isn't really a win, is it? We're stepping into a completely new era.
And this slide illustrates that change perfectly. It's a total flip of the script. We're moving away from the idea of a footprint, the negative mark we leave behind, and toward the idea of a handprint. The handprint is all about our power to give back, to actively restore, and to leave nature even better than we found it.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll unpack why the old less bad model is broken. Then we'll get into this whole nature positive idea. After that, we'll see what it looks like in the real world, learn how to spot the difference between real change and just marketing fluff, and finally, we'll talk about what this regenerative future could actually mean. Okay, first up, let's talk about why the old way of thinking, that philosophy of just trying to be less bad, has really hit a wall.
The traditional model was all about damage control. A good first step for sure, but it's a defensive game in a world that desperately needs some offense. It doesn't actually fix the root problems causing ecological collapse. I mean, think about it. Just slowing down how fast you're heading for a cliff doesn't change the fact that you're still heading for a cliff.
Which brings us to this exciting new paradigm, the nature positive pivot. This is a huge shift from a mindset of just taking things from the earth to one of actively healing it. So what is a nature positive brand? It's a company whose entire operation doesn't just try to avoid harm. It actually creates ecological health. We're talking about real, measurable improvements to things like biodiversity, soil quality, and water systems. The goal is no longer about how little you take, but about how much you can give back.
Now, this isn't just some feel-good trend. It's being driven by some very real, very powerful forces. So what's really behind this big pivot?
It really boils down to three big things. First, just plain ecological reality. We're pushing past planetary boundaries, so doing nothing isn't an option anymore. Second, the regulators are finally catching up. You've got these new frameworks like the TNFD and Europe's CSRD that are forcing companies to be transparent about their impact on nature. There's nowhere to hide. And third, you and me, consumers, we're demanding more. We want to see real, tangible impact, not just read some glossy report.
Okay, so the theory sounds great, right? But what does this actually look like in the real world? How do companies actually put this idea of regeneration into practice? Well, it's not about one-off projects. It's about redesigning the entire system, from the top down. That means rethinking the whole value chain, from how you source materials to what happens at the end of a product's life. It means embedding this thinking into the design itself, managing whole water systems, being totally transparent with customers, and making local communities true partners in this work.
Let's make this really concrete. Take farming. This chart shows it perfectly. The conventional way is all about maximizing yield, right? But it often uses methods that wreck the soil and pump out carbon. The regenerative way flips that on its head. It prioritizes the health of the soil itself, using natural cycles. And the outcome? Well, the farm actually starts pulling carbon out of the atmosphere, biodiversity comes back, the whole system gets healthier.
And this is where it gets really cool. It completely changes how we think about product design. Instead of just ticking a compliance box, designers get this amazing new creative challenge. How can this product actively help nature? So you start getting things like biodegradable packaging that actually enriches the soil, or even clothing tags with seeds embedded in them that you can plant. It's innovation, not just obligation.
Of course, whenever a big, positive idea like this comes along, you know what happens next, right? The marketers get a hold of it. So it's absolutely crucial that we learn how to separate the real deal from the superficial greenwashing.
In this slide draws a really clear line in the sand. The weak version, that's the marketing fluff. It's all about appearances, PR campaigns, one-off tree planting days, catchy slogans on a package. But the strong version, that's rooted in the core operations of the business. It's about real, measurable investments that lead to verifiable ecological benefits. One is a story, the other is a system.
So that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? For all of us, investors, regulators, customers, how do you actually verify these claims and tell the difference between the talk and the walk?
Well, the amazing thing is, technology is giving us this incredible new toolkit to make it all auditable. We can use satellites to map reforestation in near real time. We can literally take a scoop of water, analyze the environmental DNA in it, it's like CSI for nature, and see what species are living there. We can stick smart probes in the ground to measure exactly how much carbon the soil is capturing. This tech turns a vague promise into hard, verifiable data.
All right, so let's bring it all home and look ahead. Because this isn't just about ethics anymore. This is quickly becoming the new frontier of competitive advantage.
What we're going to see over the next few years is a great sorting. There's going to be a huge divide between the companies that just talk about protecting nature and the ones that are actually out there creating more of it. I mean, if your business depends on depleting resources, you're building on a pretty shaky foundation. But if you create value by restoring nature, you're building for the long haul.
And I think this quote just says it all, doesn't it? The whole standard for leadership is shifting right under our feet. It's no longer about being the best of a bad bunch, it's about changing the game entirely and actively making our planet healthier.
So we end with this question, and it's a really powerful one, not just for big companies, but for every single one of us. As we start moving from minimizing our footprint to maximizing our handprint, it really forces us to think, what is the positive, regenerative legacy we want to leave behind?